All right, today we're diving deep into a review of the Titleist T350 Irons. We're going to break down all the tech, the feel, the performance. Really, we're trying to answer one big question. Who are these clubs actually for? So let's get right to it. You know the feeling, right? You absolutely crush an iron. It feels amazing off the face, it just soars through the air, and then it keeps on soaring right over the back of the green. It is the absolute classic trade-off in golf. You get all this distance, but you give up all the control. So frustrating. Well, this is the exact problem that the Titleist T350 is designed to fix. The whole idea behind this club is simple, but it's really powerful. Give you that distance you're looking for, but, and this is the important part, with the high ball flight you need to actually hold the green. So how do they do that? How do they pull it off? Let's get into the first big idea here, which is how these irons create both power and that peak height, because that's really the secret sauce for getting both distance and control.
Okay, so the first part of this whole equation is pretty simple. The review makes it super clear these are strongly lofted irons. And if you're not familiar with that term, all it means is that the face of the club is angled a little differently to launch the ball lower with less spin. That's pretty much the main engine for getting maximum distance.
But here's where things get really interesting. I mean, hitting the ball a long way is totally useless if it just hits the green and takes off like a rocket. So the review points out that even with those strong lofts, the T350 is built to launch the ball way up high, getting to a really impressive peak height. And that is the absolute key. Now, this is a really important technical point that the review makes. We hear all the time that spin is what stops the ball, right? But the reviewer says, look, for these kinds of irons, peak height is actually the #1 factor. The super steep angle that the ball comes down from when it's hit that high, well, that has a much bigger effect on stopping power than spin does. It's that high, soft landing flight that lets you really attack the pin.
Of course, a golf club isn't just about the numbers on a launch monitor. So let's talk about the more, subjective stuff, the forgiveness and the feel. The reviewer sums it all up with this great phrase, all that Titleist loveliness. So what exactly is this loveliness? Well, we're talking about that beautiful, classic chrome finish that Titleist is known for. A really solid, satisfying feel when you hit the ball, and a shape that just makes you feel confident when you're standing over it. The review also highlights a couple of key design features. There's tungsten in there to help with forgiveness, and the top line, the part you see at address, is a little thicker than a classic blade. And let's just quickly touch on that tungsten thing. Tungsten is a super heavy, super dense metal, and what designers do is they place it in very specific spots in the club head, usually around the outside edges. This makes the club way more stable, so when you don't hit it perfectly in the center, the club doesn't twist as much, and you don't lose as much ball speed or direction. Bottom line, it makes your bad shots a whole lot better.
Now, about that thicker top line. For some golfers, hearing that might be a bit of a red flag, but let's put it into context. Yeah, compared to something like a T100 iron, which is a pure blade for a tour pro, the T350 is a little thicker, but the reviewer really stresses that it's not bulky at all. For your average club golfer, it's just a really confidence-inspiring shape that looks great behind the ball.
Okay, so we've talked distance, we've talked height, we've talked feel and forgiveness. So let's get to the most important question. Who should actually be trying these T350 irons? Let's put all the pieces together and build a profile.
Based on everything in this review, here's who this club is for. You're a golfer who wants more distance, and you're not afraid of stronger lofts to get it. But, and this is the big one, you need that ball to fly high and land soft so you can actually hold the greens. You'd also appreciate a little extra help when you don't catch it perfectly. And finally, you want a club that looks and feels like a premium player's iron, not some big chunky shovel. If that sounds like you, then this review says you should definitely give these a look.
And that brings us to one last little thought from the review, and it's a good one. It kind of questions one of the most common terms we hear in the golf equipment world. So the reviewer says that, yeah, the T350 could probably be called a game improvement iron, but then he ends with this perfect question. He says, whatever that means, because I think we're all trying to improve our games, aren't we? And that's just a fantastic thought to end on, because really, no matter what our handicap is, isn't that what we're all out here trying to do?